Hey everybody, this is Tyson.
And Logan.
And you're listening to Dad, Bods, and Beards podcast. It's a show that gives you a fresh look on being a father, a husband, and honestly, a man being in today's world.
For people who want to have a good time, laugh, and be uplifted, thanks for subscribing and listening. Now for the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dad, Bods, and Beards. We are going to just, I think, continue on the guest kick because, like you were just saying before we got started, we repeat ourselves a lot. I think listening back to some of our older episodes.
It's true. I have bipolar.
No, shut up. That's
and
me.
I was naked in the back of a police car before I went to the hospital.
I think that's your imposter syndrome and you're actually posing as me.
Oh.
But before
Did you know the story? So we're sitting here like it's a very, very, very serious moment. Like he's like tearing up everything, like it's like heartfelt, just everything. And I'm just like, and he's like, yeah, the policeman came and talked me down, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, was that when you were naked? Anyway,
I wasn't. I was not. But that's yeah. So that's kind of like the running joke of like Logan was naked in the back of a cop car,
man.
but I wasn't. But before we get into today's guest, which is our friend Tanner Guzy, we need to talk about our sponsor, Mountain Ops. You guys have heard me talk a few times about some of my favorites, which have been like the sleep gummies and
I'm
whatnot.
drinking Yeti right now.
Dude, I was going to talk about Yeti. Are you doing Yeti mode?
Yeti Max or Yeti mode.
Yeti mode.
Yeti mode. Dude, it's freaking.
No wonder. So Yeti mode is their caffeinated pre-workout,
and
it makes your face itch in the best way possible and gets you
it tastes so good.
pumping.
Like my wife drank it. My wife drinks it.
I don't know where that came from, but no,
Freak Yeti.
The reason I wanted to talk about that one really quick before we get going is quick announcement. I mean, this is going to be about a month out before this video, this episode comes out. Last week, I don't know if you know this, Brock Painter, who's on the show, he's been motivating both of us to improve our physical health, mental health, emotional health, even spiritual health, and all that stuff. Brock had me lined out so well that he realized that I don't do anything unless I have a deadline. And he set a deadline for me to run the Utah Valley Marathon, the full marathon.
Not the half, the full.
A full 26 point whatever. You can see how much I know about marathons on
Speaking of marathons,
June 7th.
Did you know?
June
No,
7th.
I'm dead serious. I just found out about this from Robert Michaelis. I said you're gonna have to put Band-Aids on your nipples so they don't bleed.
Uh-huh.
He's like, no, put beard butter on it. He puts beard butter on his nipples and they don't bleed.
Dude, we need to make a reel for that.
Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Anyways, the point of me bringing that up is not only because I have a ton of training to do, and I've been running every day and working out,
Nice.
but
He's killing it.
I've been utilizing the Yeti mode because it just gets you in that physical and even mental state of mind. It really kind of like has picked up the pace for me because that's a lot of miles to run in 7 months to be ready for. So go check out mountainops.com. Use code DADBODS at checkout. You get 20% off your whole order. And as always, every purchase on mountainops.com will go into providing free meals for families in need. So
one last thing about that is I actually went and bought Ignite. I bought Ignite because I'm just like I'm out and my family just loves it. Like loves it.
Yeah. So obviously we get hooked up with some free products, but they're so good that like if we don't have enough allotment in that time, I'll go and like grab another extra thing or two.
Because I feel like I don't want to take advantage of our relationship with them or anything like that. So I'm just like, yeah. Plus, like you said, it supports a good cause. So.
But dude, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
We before we get into your intro, and I'll let you introduce yourself. We met Tanner amongst the group of professionals that we've gotten connected with through Sean Finnegan. That dude is turning out to be the most beneficial friend.
What a relationship.
Yeah,
right?
That guy, I mean, and he just loves to connect people. And then he's not just the guy that like connects you and then like, hey, see you later. Like he is super involved. So, and he just likes to build up his friends and bring his friends along and his cool experiences. So that's where we met you.
Yep.
So tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So my name is Tanner Guzy, and I have the weirdest job in the world, which is I teach men how to dress well, but not in a like stylist fashion, I prescribe it to you kind of sense, but more in the way of let's figure out who you are on the inside and then how we can present that on the outside. One, yes, so that other people can see it and you can communicate credibility, authority, self-respect, mastery, all the things most of us as men want to communicate to other people. But more importantly, so that you change your self-perception. And when you see somebody different looking at you in the mirror, your self-talk starts to change, your whole self-perception starts to change, and it makes it easier to actually start to act the way that the ideal version of you would.
I like that because I've noticed I've stopped trimming my beard as much. I let it grow about 2 inches longer than normal, and I don't think I'm going to stop.
Hey, 2 inches is a lot. So be proud of yourself. Sorry, that's my Tyson joke for the day.
And we're done.
Yeah.
No, and I've noticed that I've told him, I'm like, I'm having a good beard day. Like I used to not say that, and it does give you more
It
confidence.
really does.
And then like you were saying, like I went a size lower to, because I've lost 40 pounds.
Good for you,
Yeah,
buddy.
dude.
Yeah, and I'm my goal is 60 more because I'm doing the half marathon. There's no freaking way I'm doing a full.
Dude, half is nothing
But
to shake a
still,
stick
dude,
at.
that's
That's
No.
still yeah.
13
Yeah.
miles.
Yeah.
But see, my goal is I want to go skydiving, and I want to be able to do like iFly and stuff, and you have to weigh 250.
Gotcha.
There's a limit
Upper
there,
limit.
and my goal is to get there. And I said, and he promised me he'll go skydiving with me if I get there.
Okay, it's funny, and then I want to get back to.
No, but sorry, I was just saying
No.
it gives me a lot of confidence. What
Right.
you're saying, like,
Yeah.
I never felt like I'm like, oh dang,
Which is crazy because you've lost the weight,
yeah.
but you don't even really solidify it until you see something entirely different with the combination of the weight change plus the clothing change.
Oh, 100%.
Otherwise, you still feel like, it's still the same me. I'm still the same guy. But even just something as simple as dropping down a size to reflect the new build, you now put on a different identity and it's congruent with what you've actually worked toward. Yeah.
Oh, I love
So
it.
how'd you get into this? Like, what made you like decide to do the weirdest job in the world? Like what you said.
I've always been hypersensitive about style because, so I grew up here in Utah. And when I was in junior high school, I was attending a private Christian school where we had to wear the uniforms, like the navy blazer, the rep stripe tie, the gray slacks, all of that. But I was very involved in like BMX, punk rock, snowboarding, all these kind of like extreme counterculture, those types of scenes. And so I wanted green Liberty spikes and a battle jacket with all my band patches, and I had to dress like the prep from some Ivy League school.
Sure.
And so I felt this really intense dissonance between who I was when I was wearing my different uniforms, and I felt like I was a completely different person. But then on top of that, oddly enough, there was a lot of resentment from a lot of the other adults in our neighborhood or in our church congregation or stuff like that. And they would treat me and my siblings differently depending on if we were dressed like normal kids or if we were in our school uniforms.
Sure.
And so I learned pretty early on that it not only affected my self-perception, but that it also really affected the way that other people treated me as well. And so I worked normal jobs. I got a useless degree in broadcast journalism and all of that, but I started a blog.
Whatever, you're really good at what you're doing.
Well,
and
thank you.
Part of your broadcast journalism,
right.
it
Plays out,
Yeah.
right? Yes. But I started a blog 12 years ago, and it just kind of like started to build up momentum, led to my working in custom suiting for a few years, and then pivoted to just doing everything on my own from there. And it's been really fun.
That's cool. Man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say Logan comes to you
Mhm.
because he wants to not wear overalls and boots and
Is
have a straw
Logan
hat.
is Logan Tyson in this situation?
No, it's
You're
you.
just using my name.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's me. Okay.
It's you.
No, I love Boston Scully hats.
Mhm.
I'm not wearing it today because I felt like this was more me with
Okay.
this.
And he
than-
ran out of newspapers to deliver.
Yeah.
So.
But he makes fun of me all the time, and I could care less. I love it. But with what is going on today?
I don't know. You're drinking pre-workout before we did an interview. That's what's going on.
But he comes to you like, what do you do?
So the very first thing that I do with my guys once we get the process started is we actually go through and we find out what their North Star is. We got to know what it is that they believe about themselves at their core. What is the thing that
So
they
like
want to represent
therapy
the most?
almost.
Kind of. I mean, really, like it's not great for marketing because I need something that's a little bit snappier and quicker for people to latch onto. But really, what I do is more like appearance psychology. Yeah, where we really dive in deep and figure out what it is that you are. So I've had guys that's like, I want Aslan energy, or I'm the shaman, or I'm a cowboy hacker. Like there's all these little things that guys come up with.
Is it
All
weird
these,
I
like,
want you to do? Is it
subcategories.
weird that I want you to do that to me right now?
Yeah.
Dead serious. I kind of.
I don't know. Maybe we do. Maybe
So what? Okay, let's do it. Tell me
do it.
like what's okay. What do you want your obituary to say?
Oh, dude, that got deep fast.
Yeah.
The
Good
casket's
husband.
not as big as it used to be.
Okay.
It's no longer on a yacht. Good father. A loving, like did everything with us, like supported us completely. Like,
Okay.
like it's always important to me. Good husband, loved his wife, cared about people, showed people how to love themselves, all that kind of stuff. It's more of just, I want people to know that they were loved by me
Mhm.
and that I cared about them and that I wanted them to know that they're important.
Why?
Why? Because in my life, with having the depression and the anxiety and going through the things that I went through, and then also seeing what my daughter has went through,
Mhm.
I know for a fact that having someone's back and people having my back in my darkest times helped me.
Okay.
And I don't want people to feel how I felt, and
Yeah.
especially when they're alone. Because holy crap, it sucks.
Can I ask you a hard question from
Yeah.
that?
Uh-huh.
How much of that, and it can be both, how much of that is genuine compassion and concern for other people? And how much of that is fear that if you don't put that out, you're not going to get more of that back if you find yourself in that position?
I think initially it was a lot of the second,
Okay.
but now it's, I genuinely want to help people.
Cool.
Like I really like seeing my daughter and her growth. I would do anything for her.
Okay.
And seeing Logan and his growth, just our little time, I would do anything for Logan.
Mhm.
And some of the people that listen and they talk to us and everything like that, it's just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's initially I would say it was a people pleasing thing, a mechanism where I'm like, I want people to like me, so I'm going to be nice to them. And now it's I really do care.
You've genuinely arrived at that place of it's not the covert contracts or the neediness, but the abundance to be able to, I'm good and I want to share that with others.
Now, mind you, I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
There are days where I'm just like, why? Like no one likes me.
The duality of man, right?
Yeah, why don't they like me? I do struggle with that occasionally, but really, it's dude, let me help you.
Cool.
Like our goal with Dad Bods is we want to make enough money where we can start our own or charity where we can go help people. Like I wanted Copper John's and this to go so well where I can go and here's your grocery bill.
Yes.
Like the next door neighbor has a pink slip because they can't pay their power bill.
Okay.
I want to go and just sneak it
Yeah.
and pay it.
Yeah. And just do it.
Yeah, because people did that to me.
Awesome.
And so that's the truth.
Okay. Why'd you start Carper John's?
So that my wife could work at home.
Okay.
And because there wasn't a good solution for me. And then when we got the stimulus check from Trump the first time and during COVID, that's when we started, because we're like, we don't have the bill, we don't have bills to pay, and we don't need a TV, we don't, we're not, let's start a company. And we did, and it was a good decision. I'm just joking. No, but that's why and then but again, we started out with be proud of who you are was my motto, because at the time I felt that way, but it was more of I grew a beard and I kept the beard because I was embarrassed
Of what?
me. It was a shield.
Gotcha. Okay.
And mind you, it's still a shield,
Okay.
but because I don't like my physical appearance.
Yeah.
But that's why I did that, because I knew that guys grow beards because they're embarrassed, and it's kind of a shield. It's a barrier where you can't see the real me,
Right.
and
Especially because it's a front of not a front, but like it can be a front for masculinity.
Oh,
So if you feel
100%.
like you're lacking masculinity in any arena, growing a great beard can feel like, no, I've put this on and so I'm set here.
yeah. And you have like a pretend chin line, like you feel
Yeah.
like a little more masculine.
Absolutely.
And so I knew that, but then as it evolved and we got bigger and I started doing lives and I started talking to people, I'm like, I really believe this.
Yeah.
And like I always believed it, but it was more of like, I really believe it. And then we started Dad Bods, and I'm like, okay, this is something that
Yeah.
was like I created on accident that now is a real thing that I really believe in wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Okay.
So
How long have you been self-conscious about how you look?
we got married in what 20 or 2002, 2006, 2008, 2008.
Okay. What
Because
happened?
I got my master's and I just
So what was the build like before then?
Jacked.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
played football. I got
Gotcha.
married at 240. I had a six pack. All that kind of stuff. And so that's what I mean is like if I can get to 250, that's 10 pounds more than what I did.
Mhm.
I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
I just want to be healthy now, but also
Right.
I want to skydive.
So I would imagine that feels like there was a solid identity that you could be proud of, that was easy to feel invested in, and that got left behind when everything kind of fell apart, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, if we were working together, I would want to go even deeper and figure out more than that. But it sounds to me that where you are is one of the things that we could really point at is you haven't peaked yet, and you help others realize that too.
Yeah.
And so it's this kind of like benevolent non-peak. And we would work towards building a style for you in everything that you wear, from what you wear with pajamas to anything that's more formal. Every article of clothing, what I would want is for you to be able to recognize that when you see it in the mirror. It's like, I haven't peaked yet. I don't have to hide yet. I can be proud of where I am in the process because it's helping me move towards where I want to be. And I'm not trying to go back to where I was, but I'm moving into a really good synergy of all the things that I've learned, plus all the good things that were part of who I was before that as well.
So how would you do that? Really, outfit me now, or so. I like. Seriously, this is really like I'm really enjoying this. Sorry.
No, not at all.
You got to pay
I'm
for
glad
this,
you enjoy
Tyson.
No, no, oh no, I'm not like. Shut up.
it. So this is what's so interesting about it, because and I'll tell you guys, when I work with my clients, we don't even start shopping until we're at least a month or two into the process.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I'll give you a really good example of two of my very similar clients, and they kind of fall into the category where a lot of men are, where they want to they're good dads and they want to communicate. They're both one's a business owner, but another one's pretty high up in the food chain at the law firm where he works, and so they're credible, they're trustworthy, they're approachable, but they're still a measure of authority. These types of things. But one of them is ex-Amish and owns a roofing company in Wisconsin. And the other is a guy who works for a personal injury firm in Vegas. Totally different lifestyles, totally different tribes of people that they interact with, totally different needs as far as what their clothing is, even though they both want them to communicate relatively similar things.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is where my process is not only so deep in figuring out who you are, but also in figuring out who the people are that you interact with. Because if you show up in one environment wearing something that communicates credibility, trustworthiness, authority, approachability, it may be a complete joke or a complete miss. And it's like speaking a different language. And so you have to learn the language of the people with whom you interact, and you have to know what it is you want to communicate. And then you use your clothing to have that visual literacy to be able to do it.
So what do you? This is super intriguing.
I know,
So, like,
right?
what do you like? I'm like, this is so much deeper than t-shirts and jeans.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And this is where most guys think that all I do is tell you that GQ says this is on trend.
Sure.
It's so much deeper
So what
than
do you
this.
do for a
I
guy?
like that though.
A guy who might get overwhelmed by like that. Obviously, that's like the final like the final end goal,
Right.
And like you said, it takes months to even get to the point where we're like, hey, now we're shopping.
Yeah.
So what do you do with a guy who might be like feeling the drive to like maybe want to improve his style? Which kind of going back, this is like a multi-part question, I guess. When you're saying, oh, it starts, your pajamas to your outerwear and stuff like that. Like it's more so I'm realizing this is not to showcase 100% to other people. It's also because I mean, who cares about what your pajamas look like?
But you do.
You will. Like, I mean, most guys would just sleep in our underwear, right? But like,
You sleep with
But what you
clothes?
yeah, right? But even like what you lounge around in when you're hanging out with the wife or the kids or anything else like
Yeah.
that, like it needs to be something.
sure.
Yeah.
So it's like
It's true because I am self-conscious about what I wear sometimes because I'm like if the shirt's a little too tight or
Right.
or the shorts
Or I'll
are
tell you one of the
yeah.
dirtier psychological secrets of that is if you just wear whatever is kind of like around, or it's old ratty stuff or whatever, whether that's the gym or Sunday mornings or whatever else, then what you're reinforcing is that dressing well is a performance that you do for other people, as opposed to an integrated part of who you are. If you dress well for yourself, you dress well all the time. And that doesn't mean formal. It just means you dress well. There's intentionality. There's good aesthetics. There's stuff like that to
See,
it.
it's funny is in like my personal growth of things, a lot has like my overall outlook of people and how they present themselves has changed.
Mhm.
And I realized I used to be so extremely judgmental.
Yeah.
Because I was so insecure with myself.
Yes.
And I used to look at people that were like loud and like loud in their dressing or like in their style, like they were like unapologetically their
Mhm.
style and whatever. And I used to just be like almost kind of like the old school, like you were talking about your private school,
Mhm.
right? Like you're in your uniform of like, oh, why can't you just like, it's just too much.
Just chill, buddy.
But now I'm
Yeah.
almost kind of like jealous of like that unapologetic outward expression that, like, for instance, not just like you and your style and some of the other guys that I've met or whatever, but like Sean.
Mhm.
I know we talk about Sean all the time. I swear I don't want to kiss him. I love him, but not like that. But like the dude shows up.
Wait,
like,
wait.
Yeah, I know. Dude shows up. I mean, very well dressed or
Uh-huh.
whatever. The nice, we talked about this last time, like the nice, you know,
Yep,
the
a good
blazer,
sport
sport
coat,
coat,
yep.
or whatever. And then the dude's wearing Air Jordans,
Mhm.
and it works. And
Yep.
then he's got the big thicker
Yeah,
glasses.
those
and
unapologetic frames. Yeah.
I'm just like, that guy knows who he is and confident. The same thing with you. And it's like I almost kind of have like two different sides. And my wife will joke of like what I almost feel more comfortable in
Mhm.
is the boots and the jeans and the t-shirt, right? Versus like
And this is
when we're going out or whatever, my wife and I will go out and I'll kind of dress more into what some of the things that she's picked out. And she's like, oh my gosh, you look really cute. And I don't feel
Right.
uncomfortable.
Right.
I like it, but it's just kind of like I don't know how to dress that way for like that other side of me.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when guys say comfortable, we grow up and kind of convince ourselves that the only paradigm in which we're thinking about that is physically comfortable.
Yes.
But is this also more psychologically comfortable?
Okay. Get a little deep for me for a second. I feel more masculine wearing boots
Mm-hmm.
and jeans
Mhm.
because it does give off a little bit more persona of like man's man.
Yeah, blue
Right.
collar. Yeah.
but he has no
Red-blooded, all
butt.
that.
So
But I look like a frog if you stood up and put pants on.
Okay.
Like I can if my neck and ankles will touch the wall if I'm standing back to back.
Gotcha.
I got nothing back there.
Okay.
But my point being is like I feel a little bit more masculine
Totally.
because it's kind of like, oh, you know, cowboy, construction worker, big,
Right.
but it's like I'm not. This is literally what I wear every day for work.
Right.
But you know, I'll go out with my wife and I put on, you know, whatever she's picked out different gifts throughout the years and like
Mhm.
put together an outfit that she bought me. And it stays very nice for a long time because I
Mhm.
barely
'Cause
wear
they
it.
look good worn, yeah.
Then I just feel a little bit more like blending in or just like not like less masculine, just kind of just like average Joe.
Yes.
But I'm not looking to stand out.
Right.
So,
Okay, that makes sense.
and then also the whole chubby aspect of kind of like, does this fit well? Because I'm
Right.
uncomfortable because I'm overweight.
Gotcha. Yeah.
see, and I
So
think that's why I
built
like
into it, too.
these.
That's why you like
because
this.
they always stand out.
They're structured though too, so they fit well for big guys.
Yeah, but dead serious, these stand out,
They do.
and I like that.
So
Interesting.
you like that attention, but you like the attention on the clothes.
Yeah, it's good.
So is it another thing that you kind of become the mannequin for the clothing and the visual focus can be on that as opposed to being on you and your build and all of that?
Yep. Didn't think of that, but yeah.
Right? And that's where
So-
things get really hard is because we can and often do use our clothing as a shield, as a social or a psychological shield. And this is why you have to be willing to do some of the deep work. All of my clients are guys that come if they're going through some sort of identity crisis or an identity change. Divorce, marriage, career change, lost a lot of weight, gained a lot of weight, something happened. If a guy's at a point where he's not making major shifts in his identity, he's not coming to see me. And so, because you have to be primed to be willing to expand your identity and be willing to express that identity in order to actually see any real results with it.
So let's say you just have a regular Joe Schmo down the street, me, Logan, whomever, and we're okay with ourselves, so to speak, but it's not. I shouldn't say we're okay with ourselves. We are not understanding ourselves better. Like we think we're fine, but in reality, we're not. We're just good at hiding it, and we're hiding it from ourselves. Like just I learned that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
And so with that, how do you help someone say, hey, it's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay to want better for you and accept, like, because wearing nice clothes helps your self-worth. It helps your self-esteem. It gives a different persona of confidence.
Yeah.
So how do you help someone do that? That maybe not be willing to.
Yeah.
Or like a listener listening today.
Right. So I have to do two different things. And both of them are really to get, I guess, kind of like prove my bona fides in this, because I think we have two different types of resistance. One is the first one that you talked about. And so a lot of it for me is being willing to, and I'm just wired this way anyway, being willing to almost kind of like document and share my own self-development journey, the things that I'm working on, the stuff that I'm going through, as a way to just kind of do what you guys are doing, what they're doing at Here Brotherhood, what a lot of kind of the guys that we're connected with are doing, which is just opening up the space to say, you don't have to pretend that you always have it all together. And it doesn't mean that we all just like wallow in self-pity or throw pity parties with each other, but like we can be a work in progress without having to be ashamed of that.
Sure.
And so I actively participate in that culture. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I come up against a lot, and this is a very uniquely like Gen X, older millennial, Western attitude, but essentially it's effeminate or gay or whatever else to care about your appearance. And regardless of how you feel about sexual orientation or anything else like that, most of us grew up with the idea that it is dishonorable as a man to care about your appearance.
Well,
And even how progressive we've gotten and better we've gotten, people still
Still
well,
feel
I
that
mean, there
way.
was an entire TV show, right? Queer Eye for the Straight
Right.
Guy.
Yeah.
And they played on that. And which is funny is at the end of it, the straight guys were always like, oh,
Right?
I feel
this does
great.
matter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
absolutely. Right. And so one of the things that I have to do, and I do this a lot with my social media, but again, it's just kind of fun for me, is demonstrating things that fit more into the realm of traditional masculinity. So a lot of my stuff is a focus on physicality and health and fitness, or I train jujitsu and Muay Thai and stuff like that, or a focus on fatherhood or culture war stuff or different things like that. And so with guys that are hesitant or not quite ready to come into this space, if they can find, it's almost like my funnel is really long. And if they can just find that there's nuggets and nuggets and nuggets, and I prove credible in those two arenas, then eventually they go, okay, I think this guy's proven himself enough that I actually want to get on board with some of this stuff.
Sure.
And I'm willing to start experimenting with it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, and the cool thing is like, I mean, I realize like I actually follow quite a few guys that have the confidence, and like quite a few big guys on social media that they show what they're wearing.
They got
They're
the
like,
sauce.
Yeah, I bet you probably follow them too, right? Like they talk about like, oh, these are the shoes I'm wearing. This is the timepiece I'm wearing. And like they have that the way that they speak of like, oh, you're not calling it a watch.
Right.
They're like, and for jewelry, I'm wearing this. And it's like the concept of jewelry for some men is like you were saying, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I don't
more
do it
than-
because literally they're
well, they
too
don't
big.
make they don't make rings
Right.
that big.
No, I'm
But
just
yeah.
like it's one size.
There's a
rules them
local
all.
guy here called Scott James. He's up
Uh-huh.
in Heber. Scott, have him make something for you.
Like this
He
is
does
13.
Awesome custom
I mean, I'm in
pieces.
construction. We got manhole rings.
But I don't wear watches because the bands don't
Uh-huh.
fit. I have to get bigger bands. I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
So I have a phone. I can just look at time.
Yeah. And then I mean, there's the whole new age. I mean, like I've gone to the
Yeah.
the rubber
silicone
ring,
rings.
silicone
Mhm.
rings, because it gets trapped in a motor. as
Totally.
I'm working on stuff.
Totally.
But I like seeing the confidence of these other guys, and some of them are like, I mean, like significantly big guys.
Yeah.
Like some of them are like, 3+, 4+,
Big dudes.
and they like dress very well, and they get a ton
That
of.
Santa Claus guy or whatever. He's
Oh
legit.
yeah, who's that one guy who does the suits? It's like always 3-piece suits and bowler hats, and it's like it's his look.
Mhm.
Anyways,
good.
the point I'm getting at, but then I also see guys that they dress, blue collar, but
Right.
like styled
Like good
blue
rugged
collar.
workwear or like
And-
streetwear or whatever.
And I'm
yeah.
realizing that it's a very broad range of like it's more so, like you said, it's the confidence, it's the expression of realizing that this is who I am, and there is some things that I can tweak. But what do you've got to probably on social media face comments of like guys that are just completely closed off.
Oh yeah,
Right.
all the time.
So like,
Yeah.
how do you respond to that of a guy who sees no value in that?
So I know for the most part that guy's not my audience,
Sure.
and I don't spend a lot of time chasing him. But one of the things that I just kind of, I don't even remember where I first came up with this, but it's an ongoing meme on all of my social media, is I will find, because they pop up all the time, but it's photos of Napoleon on a horse, or the Aztec warriors and the eagle warriors, or sorry, the jaguar and the eagle warriors from Aztec civilization. You go back at any point in time in any culture, and men have always cared about how they look. And so I find paintings or photos or depictions of these incredibly masculine men, and then just in quotes I say, but real men don't care how they look. And so it's just this constant dig at like, you are the outlier that think that somehow you have more testosterone than this guy who's wearing a necklace of ears from people that he's taken, and he's wearing that on purpose, and somehow he's effeminate for caring about his appearance, but you're not. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so not related to clothes.
Okay.
Totally opposite.
Go.
You're like, where do I get a necklace of ears?
Gotta earn that.
No, so with Mountain Ops, we're going to be on a landing page of theirs where they see our journey of, I wouldn't say of us losing weight, it's just us becoming better in shape and taking care of ourselves.
Healthier.
Becoming healthier. And so as we're becoming healthier, they wanted to take a pre-picture, like a before picture. And what do you say to people like me? Not Logan was like,
well, I was doing it. Okay, can I be honest with you? This isn't a pat on my back. I saw how nervous you were. It was just me, you, and Trevor. And Trevor's become like such a good friend. I wouldn't say just a buddy.
Because he's such a chill guy.
Oh, dude.
Like,
I
Trevor's
so
easy
love
to be
Trevor.
around.
But and he's such a good sport with our dumb Instagram reels. But I saw how nervous and self-conscious you were about the idea of it.
Oh, I hated it. I still hate it.
In the grand scheme of things, proportionally, I look 10 times worse than you. And I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to die on that mountain at the moment, right?
Well, we're not going to cover that right now.
But that's why I did it. That's why I jumped into it. So before you keep throwing yourself under the bus, that's why I did it.
So it's positive peer pressure.
No, so anyway, point being,
okay.
I'm the guy who wears a shirt when you go swimming because I'm embarrassed. I think I call the fat man syndrome is what I call it. I don't know if it's a real thing, but where I used to be in shape and now I'm not, and so I know what I could look like, and so therefore I'm disgusting. We're saying way too much about me. I'm sorry, but what do you say about how do you help people like that that feel confident in their own skin? Because I hated taking my shirt off and taking a picture. It is embarrassing.
It's a really good question. So, because I think that you need to, it's pretty easy to be too hard on yourself for that. And then the part of you that feels that way just feels like it's being exiled, right? And that it's not actually like on the team, and it's just kind of this like laggard that part of you deserves a seat at the table. So I think that there's some measure of validation that needs to be expressed for feeling that way about yourself. But then I think the better parts, or not even better, but the more willing or more progress-oriented parts of you can then recruit it and say, yeah, this sucks, and you're totally legit and being embarrassed, and this is how we get better. This is how you stop being so scared in the shadows. So I would say that there's a lot of like good self-talk and kind of those practices and opportunities that you can get into it with that.
Which kind of leads, I'm glad you said that, because it kind of leads into the question that we posed kind of at the beginning before we started rolling, that term that we read in your bio before you came on the show, extegrity. So what is extegrity?
So extegrity is basically when who you are on the inside aligns with who you are on the outside. And that's the whole goal, is to get my clients and even guys who don't end up working with me one-on-one, but just that kind of buy into the idea, to recognize that there is, if you've got the external self that conflicts with the internal self, that energy cancels each other out, right? But if they're both working together, then you get a synergy between them, and it makes all of this other stuff. It's so funny because it's non-trackable and it's so freaking irrational. But when you get this, you make more money, you have better relationships, you have more confidence, you just have more swagger, but it's a humble kind of swagger. Like everything is just better. It's almost like you've gone your whole life with everything being a note flat. And so it's not totally off and so drastic to the point that you need to change it. But then when it finally gets on key and everything settles in the way that it's supposed to, you just go, how did I ever live with it being this way before? And so it's helping guys recognize that their lives are a little bit flat, and then seeing the power of getting it on key that way.
Cool. So it's, I mean, basically it's like you just said it, the outward expression of how you feel about yourself on the inside.
But not only how you currently feel about yourself, because we can use those. The external can shape the internal and vice versa. And so if you're not totally jazzed on who you are on the inside, you can shape a better version of yourself externally and allow that dissonance that's created there to either force you to go back to dressing the way you were, which is what happens with most of the guys who go on a show like Queer Eye, is that's really fun and exciting for about 6 months, but it's not actually extegrous, and so they don't
That
stick
makes
to
sense.
it.
So
right?
it's, because somebody told them what to wear versus help them find what to wear.
Exactly, which is why stylists don't work and those types of shows don't work, because it's not creating integrity, it's just creating more fashion or better trends or whatever else, right? And so that dissonance can either mean that they go back, or it's kind of like progressive overload. Like you want a little bit of dissonance and a little bit of breakdown so that the muscles come back and grow back stronger, and then you can then lift more weight the next time and lift more weight the next time. And so if you can create the right amount of dissonance between the external self and the internal self, then it can force the internal to rise up to what you're presenting externally.
That's
like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
It's like the way that my brain works is like I keep thinking of Barney from How I Met Your Mother. I'm like, just that he's always like, suit up, and like his whole opinions of like always wearing suits because of how he felt about himself and what it presented and stuff like that. That's obviously a more comedic way of this approach, but I like this because it's just another form of like self-healing and self-progression. And though it's one of the things that I love about the show that the parts of the show that we do this is because, like you said, not everything is for everyone. Like you have a niche group of guys who might be like, okay, I'm at this point. Now I want to take it to the next level.
Right.
Or we might have a couple of guys that are listening that like, we just got to get them to go to therapy first and then get okay with who they are and then mend relationships and then work on my path for the future. And it's like, hey, I feel like I've got all these things done. Now I need to work on, I feel like the last missing piece of the puzzle is
Finding who I am.
like self-expression. Right. So with like the topic of self-expression, and then we talked about social media a little bit, what's your take on like mental health and like just the male side of social media when it comes to like the positive things that are out there, like your content and other stuff we've already talked about, versus just like I have a hard time not commenting on these type of posts, but I realize that it's probably counterintuitive what we're trying to build, to like go out and like throw negativity on their posts, but like you're not a man if like this is what men do. You think your wife is gonna love you if you look like this, or like you will buy my course because you're lesser. Like, what's your take on that kind of like the alpha bro type of stuff?
So I fall kind of into both camps.
Sure.
A lot of my time has been spent in like the manosphere and the red pill arena and stuff like that.
Manosphere.
Yes.
I've never heard that.
This is an old like autistic blogging term, so it doesn't get used a lot anymore. It literally
conveyed the perfect,
right?
Like, I mean, I knew exactly what you're talking about as soon as you said it. I never heard that.
And so guys like Andrew Tate are colleagues of mine and stuff like that. Like, he and I follow each other and are aware of each other and stuff like that. And I think that the battle between the two different camps is largely, it's kind of wasted energy, because I think one of the problems with a lot of the more therapeutic approaches, and this is certainly not everybody, there's great guys that are out there. One of the ones that I love the most is Connor Beaton from Man Talks. I don't know if you guys follow him, but I've done his show. I've been out to some of his events. He's awesome. But I think one of the biggest problems with therapy is that it treats all masculinity, like all of our brokenness is because we don't operate like women. And the way to heal is to become like women, and masculinity in and of itself is broken. And I think that that's a problem. I think that when we can recognize that a lot of our motivation does require a healthy dose of, like, I think shame, like the idea, not shame in that I'm inherently bad, but shame as in I feel awful because other people disapprove of me, can actually be a very healthy thing. And when we try to rid society of that, then you get sociopathy as opposed to self-enlightenment. And I think it's dishonorable if we get rid of all of that. But we need to have the right checks and balances in all of this. And so I do think that a lot of this alpha bro stuff does hit on some things, and it can get taken to cartoonish levels.
Sure.
And I think a lot of the more kind of like healing and self-development, therapeutic, and a lot of stuff can also get taken to dangerous or cartoonish levels, but there's a lot of validity in that. And I think sadly, we see these two camps as mutually exclusive when they can be mutually beneficial. It's just two different approaches that can work with each other.
I like how you said cartoonish, because it's so true, because some of it like, oh, I fit, and then all of a sudden they're like, duh, duh, duh. I'm like, oh no.
Right?
Well, and I love that you said that, because like the feeling I was getting the whole time you're talking is like, I feel like that's what we're trying to do, is try to bridge the gap.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've said this a lot of, like, you can do both.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't say this in a, oh, you're gonna hate me.
I don't do it then. I don't like it. I don't like it when he talks crap about himself.
No,
I
talk
hate
crap
it.
about myself is that I don't
I hate it.
I don't ever
Yeah.
want to come across conceited.
But don't.
Like
You're not. You're confident. You're a good
So,
person. So shut up and just say
I'm
it.
saying of like in my progression of learning a lot from my wife
Mm-hmm.
about compassion and kindness and empathy and openness and just
Unless you're
accepting-
a little truck.
and little truck. Yeah, I've got a problem with. I've had some run-ins with guys, but my point being is that, like, the whole, like, the softer side of
Mhm.
things, and realizing that, like, treating everybody like a human being regardless of differences,
Mhm.
like, that is another hill that I will die on.
Okay.
Versus, I know that I can give off a certain look,
Right.
right, and I can come across very threatening at times because I have resting rip your head off face. Apparently, my wife says. But the thing is I do take a lot of pride in the fact that, like, I can do both.
Mm-hmm.
Like I take pride in the fact when somebody feels like they can open up to me and I didn't ask them to. And
Right.
I'm like, I try really hard to sit there and listen, and I enjoy it and I talk to them. But at the same time, I take pride silently knowing that if and when somebody breaks into my house, it will be the worst decision of their life.
Yeah.
Like I am capable, kind of what Joe Rogan says, right? I'd rather be a warrior in a garden instead of a gardener in their war. I know he didn't
Absolutely.
say that. He's talking about
Right.
it on his show, but that's the thing, is I enjoy the fact that I've come into that part of my life in the later years, and I'm only 35, meaning that I can be the soft guy if I need to
Yeah.
be, but at the same time of, like, I know I'm capable of absolute unbridled violence
Right.
on behalf of my wife and children if I needed to.
As you should be.
And that's the thing, is I feel like you said the two different sides of, like, one acts like you can't be the other, and then vice versa, and then they butt heads.
Right.
This one calls that one weak. This one calls that one toxic. When in reality of, like, I view it as, well, if we have the capability of being both, there's a reason why both are pertinent at different times.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so one of my good friends, his name's Jack Donovan. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He
Mhm.
wrote a book called The Way of Men that you two absolutely need to read.
Sure.
In another book
You are
of his,
just name dropping left and right.
it's fun to kind of get you guys into a different space because a lot of it is a little bit radioactive and controversial, but there's so much good stuff in there too.
Mm-hmm.
His most recent book is called Fire in the Dark, and he breaks down these different kind of like religious archetypes and how it relates to masculinity. And they are the striker, the lord of the earth, and the father. And if you look at different mythological systems, you've got like Thor and Frey and Odin that
Mhm.
fit these, right?
Yeah.
Or you've got like Ares and Dionysus and Zeus that fit. I'm probably like mixed up my Roman and Greek, but
Sure.
the point is that I would even make the argument that in Christian theology, you've got Jehovah, the God of the Old Testament, Jesus Christ, the God of the New Testament, and then the combination of those two, which is what he'll be when he comes back for the second coming.
Hmm.
So this is a very like archetypal thing that exists in all religion. And if you guys read Iron John,
No.
okay,
I've heard of it.
that's a really good book that's from a lot of the like masculine self-development stuff from back in the 80s and like the early wave of this. And he talks about
Did you read Red Clifford?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Go ahead.
You're good. So really good book that kind of talks about like the progress through all of this relationship with self, the relationship between the masculine and the feminine. But he talks about in Parsifal's quest for the Holy Grail that he confronts these three different knights. You have the Red Knight, the White Knight, and the Black Knight. And all three of these kind of represent these different phases of when you're young, you need to be aggressive as hell and have
Oh,
that
yeah.
warrior energy and all this unbridled stupidity and everything else. And then you go through a phase when you mature that we need to be guided into. And this is the problem with not having rites of passage. It's the problem with not having like healthy developed masculinity. We either get stifled or like gang versions of masculinity.
Like broken homes you're talking about?
Yeah, right. But but I would say even in a place like the suburbs of Utah, you just get nice guy masculinity, which is still a broken and stifled version of it, right? And so you need to have that raw physical aggressive that's developed, and then it needs to be balanced and tempered with these other things, because I think healthy masculinity it's all about capacity. And it's, Jordan Peterson talks about this, that you're not a good person if you only don't do bad things because you're incapable of doing bad things. You can only be a good person if you have the capacity for evil, but you choose not to be evil.
Ooh, that's deep. That one cut a little bit. Well, no, because that's I deal with a lot of guilt
Okay.
because of I'm not going to get into it, so Tyson can say I was naked in the back of a cop car, but just
I will say it.
no, I'm
again.
joking. I'm not going to get into the whole story. I have a history of bipolar,
Mhm.
and you can imagine unmedicated bipolar and all the stuff I was capable of and did do.
Yeah.
I did a lot of stuff that has left me with a lot of guilt.
Okay.
Right? Not a lot of nothing illegal. Let me just preface with
Right.
that. But I mean, it did cause trauma in
Yeah.
some people's lives.
Yeah.
And so with that, a lot of that unbridled aggression came
Mhm.
out, and so that led me to go down this path of I feel guilty for the aggression, and so then I like aggression bad, right?
Right.
Like masculinity
Right.
bad, all these things bad. And so it's like, oh, I need to be more soft, but then it's like also hiding part of that, you know, that part of yourself, but realizing it's the control of the
Mhm.
aggression that I feel I've come into in the last few years.
Yeah.
Of like, I know what I'm capable of. I know I'm capable of all these things, but and I'm glad you said that because I feel like it's a far greater sign of masculinity that I've learned from talking to other people and experiencing other people of the guy who is capable of
Mhm.
very, very bad things. I don't, that's maybe a horrible way to put it. A guy who's capable of a lot of things that, you know,
Aggressive, powerful,
aggressive,
dominant, violent,
but
whatever.
they keep
Yeah.
themselves in check because they are, you know, they've got people to protect, they got people to provide for,
Right.
and more importantly, they've got people that are looking up to them,
Yes.
like children.
Right.
I don't want my son thinking, oh, this is the way that a man acts.
Right.
A man talks down to his wife. A man dismisses his daughter when she's talking about feelings.
Mhm.
Like, no, I want my son to be raised knowing that like this is mom.
Yeah.
This is your sister. You respect them above, you know, everything else. This is the way they're supposed to be, you know, the way they're supposed to be treated. I'm trying to like rein this in so I don't go on this big long rant, but basically it's kind of not beating up my old self anymore,
Mhm.
realizing that like he was young and dumb and unmedicated versus okay, now we know we have these capabilities, so it's like I feel more powerful knowing that like I keep that guy in check. I'm in control of that guy. That guy's not in control of me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because I don't think that there's any sin in capacity. I think it's in how that capacity is used.
mhm.
Right. I mean, depending on your
I
religious.
like that a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at.
That
He
was-
just said it.
Yeah. You
Much-
said it in three
Yeah,
words.
exactly. I said he just said it in a very beautiful way.
But look
Like,
at this, because we can even, so we talked about it from the aggressive standpoint, but then you've got guys that, like myself, that have spent a lot of time kind of in that bro alpha space. And a lot of that is out of the same, I think both sides of the camp, the emotional or the aggressive, tend to entrench for fear of what the other side is. Right. And so one of the things that a lot of guys can and should be working on over here, because guys that are on the bro side will often see guys on the emotion side as being completely enslaved by their emotions, by their grief, by their sorrow, by their fear, just like guys over here will see these guys as being completely enslaved by their aggression, by their dominance, by all of that. And I think with all of them, what we need to be able to do is expand our range while simultaneously expanding our control.
sure.
Because if we give into, like, if we deepen our range, okay, let's say I deepen my emotional range, because for most guys, they either feel numb or they feel angry.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because we're terrified of grief or fear or sorrow or all these other things. And so we just feel pissed or irritated or nothing at all. But if I can expand my emotional range into all of these other emotions, that includes true joy and everything else, but I don't expand my control of that, then I just become a wimpy slave to my emotions and everything's going to throw me off and I'm not going to be able to do the work when I need to or provide for my family or right. And so we have to expand the range while simultaneously expanding control, I think, from all sides.
Have you ever had one of those? This has something to do with what you guys are talking about. Have you ever had a dream and you beat the crap out of an intruder? Like you're scared.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is how I know I'm gonna like be able to take care of my family, is where like I'm petrified in the dream, scared to death, and I know that I'm probably going to die. But I'm hide my family and I go and confront the intruder and stuff like that, and hopefully that never happens. But I know I'm going to do it because I've already been through it, even though I didn't.
Mhm.
That type of thing, and I'm grateful for those type of things because I have a mean side.
Yeah.
Like we all do. Like Logan still hasn't seen it. Kind of. I'm
I can-
aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I say that's why I'm an entrepreneur though, because I'm very aggressive. But
Yeah.
I'm kind.
Do you train
But
a
I'm-
combat sport?
Yeah, I played football my whole life.
No, a combat
Combat,
sport.
not contact, combat.
Combat.
Like
Jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai,
Wrestling.
anything like that?
I
Wrestling?
did wrestling.
How long has it been since you've done that?
High school.
Do it. Get
Really?
back into something. It's one of the best things. So from a
Interesting.
personal perspective, I've had a really rough 4 years. And in the
You have.
last year, I've gone through a pretty brutal divorce, and I've got 7 kids, that are part of this,
Holy
right? So
cow,
it's
dude.
it's hard, right? And the biggest thing outside of my faith that has kept me able to again expand my own, because the extent to which I've expanded my emotional range has been huge within this time, and I'm an infinitely better father because of that. But the thing that has done the most for me with that has been training jujitsu, because when you get that, I think that we as men are so biologically, both physically and spiritually hardwired for violence, that if we,
And I really enjoy it.
right? Well, and that's the thing. You have to do it. Okay,
I do.
I think violence is like sex. It needs to be done in the right place at the right time with the right people. Otherwise, it gets dangerous and it creates a lot of problems.
Mhm.
And if we stifle our violence drive, we all know what happens if you stifle a sex drive, and what happens there, and the dangers of that. But we live in a culture where we stifle our violence drive rather than developing it into a healthy expression of who we are. And that's the kind of thing that both sides need to be able to have as well, is that healthy relationship with
Because
violence.
that's kind of why I powerlifted, because I felt like I got a lot of that aggression out.
Right?
And but then it destroyed my knees, and I had to get a knee replacement
Yeah.
because I crushed them.
Well, that's where you see guys end up having like explosion moments because
Absolutely.
it bottles up, right? And
Yep.
and that's one thing that I mean we're working on a lot with Brock is just like honoring feelings and not bottling them up, and like maybe not just like, hey, I get to go be violent. It's like, no,
Accept
why
them, honor them, listen to
yeah,
them.
why am
Partner
I
with 'em.
feeling like
Mhm.
that? Why am I feeling the angry? I feel like violent is obviously like a violent word, right? It does have like a negative connotation with some people, basically because
Because of
some
our
people
Overton window.
some
Yeah.
people have experienced trauma, some people have experienced violence and abuse and things like that. So it's like I guess the picture we're trying to paint, and you're doing it very beautifully, is that this is a natural part of a lot of men,
Mhm.
and that unfortunately men who don't know how to process these things,
Right.
when they experience those things that they don't know how to process, or they don't have an outlet or things like
Mhm.
that, whether it be jujitsu or a sport, or like even I've seen violent artistic expressions, and those, I mean, there's a guy, what's the this has popped up on my in multiple conversations with me in the last 2 weeks, the art of like smashing a bowl and then putting it back together with gold.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
I don't
kintsugi
remember
or
the term.
kintsugi
Yeah,
or something
but
like
yeah.
that. I'm like that as well as like smashing it
Mhm.
in anger and then putting it back together.
Which, what a cool process as an artist to do that. That it's not just for the symbolism, but you actually have this piece that represents that
Mhm.
emotion and everything
Yeah,
else.
and so I love that because it's talking about the reality of that it exists inside a lot of men,
Yeah.
and that you look at ancient cultures, and there was pretty much like the passage of the rite of passage included some form of fighting, or
Yes.
like being thrown out into the wild to
Mhm.
like survive on your own. And I love that you brought up jujitsu, because one of my childhood best friends experienced a ton of unimaginable trauma,
Mhm.
and he has gotten into jujitsu in the last 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
Dude's a stud in it now, but he talks about how much like emotional healing
It's
he's
insane.
experienced, and
It's
just the
insane.
camaraderie with the
Yeah.
group of guys that
You build a brotherhood.
and then he's since realized like, wow, this is a huge part of who I am, and he's started a business associated with
Good for him.
jujitsu. So it's like seeing him kind of come into his own with that was like really,
You guys should come train with me.
yeah.
We've had to
Yeah.
have fun. We should do it and record it.
Yeah. I don't know if I can bend that well like that. But
Oh, is jujitsu when you're on the ground?
it's a lot of grappling on
Yeah.
the floor.
Yeah. I mean,
Your
it's
wife
like
can't
wrestling,
come.
but you get arm bars and chokes.
Oh, so I can't. Like he has 7. I have 6. I need to figure out how to have
Yeah,
7.
yeah. One, as we're kind of getting close
But
to
can I ask one
yes,
question?
no,
though?
yeah, and then I got one.
You talked about bro science,
Mhm.
and you talked about the other side. What's the other side called?
Sensitive side.
Sensitive
I don't know,
side.
therapy
'Cause
side.
I feel like
don't know.
we're kind of
Yeah.
in between, like you
Mhm.
said. I don't get offended, and I just don't.
Mhm.
But it does bother me sometimes where you talk about like the bro science is like talks weak, like they're like I'm a lion and not a lamb, that
Mhm.
type of thing. And then you have these guys who are like, what,
Wait, what were they like? Okay, just making sure.
But in my mind, I'm like, I would rather. Now this sounds weird, but it's not like a deity or anything. But I'd rather be the shepherd kind of person, where I'm loving you and I'm loving you and I'm going to protect both of you. Why do we have to hate one or the other? Like, kind of like, we're going politics real quick, Democrat and Republican. Like, why do we have to hate each other? Why can't we say, hey, we both have benefits to both
Well,
sides?
I think it's fear.
What are we afraid of?
Where I think a lot of us are afraid of that part of ourselves. You know, like the guys that are in the more macho camp, they fear that weakness in themselves, and so they have to smash it out of
But it's
everybody
not
else.
freaking weakness. That's why I don't understand.
No, but that's how they
being
perceive it. That's how
vulnerable.
they've been.
You've been vulnerable with us, and it's not weak.
No,
And it bothers
No.
me that people think that.
but culturally we can be conditioned to believe that. I hate the term vulnerable because of all of that comes with it. I choose to see it as humble instead, but I can still exist in that space. But I think that we see it. This side hates their own potential for aggression and violence, and so they have to demonize it in the other side too.
You know, what's
Right?
one of my, and this will lead into my question, and I love that you said that. One of my like role models, and this is going to sound funny, but I feel like a lot of people, especially, you know, millennial, Gen X, call them Zennials,
Yeah,
right?
that's me.
The kind of the group that we're all in is I look up to Mufasa from
Oh, okay,
the
yeah.
Lion King,
Yeah.
especially as a father, because you look at the guy of like, it starts out with a dad sleeping there, and he's the lion, he's the king, and he's got his kid just jumping on him. He wants to get up, and he's like, Dad, let's go or whatever, and he gets up, and the whole aspect of like that he is this bad a ruler that is capable of everything, but he's teaching his son and he's walking with him and he's telling him all these different things, and he's telling him like, you know, the whole circle of life of kind of like, I'm not killing the gazelle just because I can, I'm doing it because we need to, because it's a circle of life. And then they brought, you know, and then when we die, our body becomes the grass. And then versus the flip side, his brother Scar, who is all about violence and power, and in the end that doesn't
Right.
pan out. Obviously, it's
Live by
you
the
know,
sword, die by the sword.
obviously we're all scarred from Mufasa dying. But my point being is that I look up to that character a lot that Disney created because he has this immense capability, but he uses it to, you know, to lead. He doesn't deny it, because when the time came, you know, he used it to protect his son from the hyenas and, you know,
Right.
elephant graveyard, all that stuff. I love cartoons, obviously. So what's the whole like alpha, beta, and now sigma is trending on social media.
Yeah.
So kind of as we're kind of wrapping up, kind of like explain those to the, you know, to your understanding, those like male personas.
Okay, so if you really want to find like the origin of all of those terms and that breakdown, you can go to voxday.blogspot.com. Guy who's written in the space, he's the one who coined those terms originally. A sigma is essentially like an alpha, but as far as like the capacity, but rather than being a leader, it's a lone wolf. So it's the Marlboro Man, it's Clint Eastwood, it's all of that type of stuff, right? And I don't think that there's necessarily, you know, you've got leader, follower, or, you know, the outsider. You've got like gammas and deltas that are just kind of like losers that don't have anything, you know, his terminology with all of this, but they don't have any ability to fit anywhere within a hierarchy other than at the bottom. And I think that when we start to use any of those terms as kind of like one-dimensional, either aspirations or pejoratives, then that's where we get into trouble, because I think that there are plenty of things that, like, you can't have a good leader without having good followers. And I can't imagine a single civilization in which the only person who qualifies to be masculine is the one leader and everybody else is an effeminate beta loser, right?
Sure.
So like the ability to lead, the ability to follow and know how to do that in a way that's healthy and masculine and all of that. Like, I think any position in the hierarchy can have and should have healthy elements of masculinity. And when we fall into those kind of like false dichotomies of those terms is where we get into trouble with stuff. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, like, it makes it deeper because unfortunately, like you said, social media makes it very surface level of like, oh, alpha, he's the bro, he's the guy. And then beta is like, I mean, because there's guys that use that as, you know, as
it's
like,
a pejorative.
They use it as like a negative term to like insult somebody on social media. Versus, I'm not gonna like ruin your explanation. I thought that was great.
I've never heard of the word pejorative.
You have like 5 degrees. You've ever heard pejorative?
I've never heard that word.
Surprise.
What does it mean?
I don't know if I could quantify it or if I could describe
You're like, I don't know.
it,
I just made it up.
I know. I just made it up. No, it's basically like it's used as an insult, or it's like putting something down.
Okay. I promise I've never heard that word.
Now you have. The more you know. Yeah.
No,
But
it's just like every third word. I said.
yeah.
I don't know what I said.
Yes, smart. Yeah, like
Speaking of cartoons,
yeah.
I do love me some good cartoons.
So as we're kind of wrapping up, one thing that we do, and I'll give you a second to kind of think about it. I probably should stop springing this on people, as we love to offer challenges at the end.
well, he's very quick-witted. He's intelligent.
Yeah,
he uses
so-
words
you.
pejorative.
So yeah, we like to kind of offer challenges. There are some podcasts out there that are kind of like checklists, and sometimes people do good with those.
Yeah.
We like to just leave little like, hey, this is the topic we're talking about, like, or like just something that's, kind of like your ethos, like something like, that you'd like to leave with those that are listening. But the take that I've got from this whole thing is just that my big whole in all of this is that we have more in common than everyone else wants us to believe. And that the more you do push to one camp or the other, in reality, you're missing out on some amazing potential connections, because I've made amazing connections with people that could not be any more different than me. And I'm realizing like, wow, you and I have this in common so much. And that's one thing, like I kind of going back, I've gleaned so much from my wife of realizing before when she'd say different things to me, I'd be like, oh, that's, it's not who I am, or that's this, or me being more judgmental, realizing that, maybe that feminine side of things, is just a better way of not a better way, a different way of looking at stuff. And so I feel like we're trying to be that middle ground to show guys that like, hey, you can, if you peg yourself as an alpha, right, then that's totally fine. But don't turn off the fact that maybe this guy who might be more beta in your mind is some weak individual that you shouldn't be associating with, because that guy may have fought a battle that you fought silently, and he might have some insight, and vice versa. Or even in business, there's so many different crossovers. So,
and I think most people are inherently kind. I genuinely believe, like, just talking to you and talking to people that I normally wouldn't talk to in a past life, it's like, these are the nicest, most giving and loving people. And I had I judged harshly at first, not you, but
That's
just,
okay.
but no, dead serious, not you at all. If anything, I was like,
if anything, you're like, if anything, and forgive me, or anything, Dave Portnoy,
Right?
I am not gay. No, just joking. But I don't know where I was going.
yeah, telling you that pre-workout, right? Like, but no, so with all that said, thank you so much for coming on. But like, if you did have one thing to leave with everybody, like a challenge or even like another book or something else, like push someone in the right direction, what would you say?
So I want to actually build off of it, even push back a little bit on what you said.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think one of the problems that we run into when we seek this idea, and even the language that we use, like a middle ground or a compromise or kind of that, is that we have a tendency to think that the extremes need to be avoided. Whereas my opinion is that the extremes and everything in between, it all needs to be embraced.
Sure.
And you can almost think of like a suspension bridge where you've got these uprights and one is pulling everything on this side saying, hey, we got to pull this way. We got to go this way. And another is pulling on the other side and saying, we have to go this way. And the fact that that tension is there is the only thing that keeps the bridge upright. Whereas if those pillars came together, then the bridge would collapse. Right. And so I think that we need to embrace those extremes and those identities. But I do think that what you said was spot on as far as like, if you are more of the alpha bro, then lean into that, but embrace the tension that we need this other side too. Or if you're the therapy bro, embrace that and lean into that, but also recognize that we need this other kind of like hard hitting masculine alpha bro stuff too. And so it's not, let's all come together and change things so much as let's embrace that tension is actually what creates what we're after.
So be grateful that we're here and grateful that there's so many different personalities, and just be kind. And
instead of everybody has to be like me in order for me to feel safe being who I am.
Ooh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, it's, and then the opposite of that is just like, be unapologetically who you are, as long as you're not hurting anybody. But also at the same time, be open to the fact that because there are different people, you should be willing to accept them for who they are, because the whole yin yang aspect, right? Light and dark, everything. So dude, I've loved this. I think this is why we have the platform, is to give people a different way of thinking of things, looking at things. And I think as we maybe get a little bit bigger, you're gonna have to help us with our style.
Hey,
my wife was like, you're talking to a guy, like she got so excited. Like,
I like my style.
no, I think it looks good.
But when I don't have this, I think it would be nice to have a t-shirt.
So
No, people who aren't able to work with you, if
Mhm.
they're out of state or maybe they're out of the price range at the moment, what would you say is the biggest key for them moving forward if they want to embrace their look that they're trying to go
Yes. Okay. First of all, most of my clients are out of state, so if
Okay.
they're not Utah guys, you're welcome to listen in. I guess two things I can recommend. First one, shameless plug, go read my book, The Appearance of Power, because it illustrates. We kind of hit a few of the key principles, but there's a lot more that are discussed in there that can really help with this.
Yeah.
And
It's
then,
hard to catch everything in 1 hour.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But then in addition to that, I would say the mistake that a lot of guys make is they think that in order to dress better, they have to dress drastically differently. I need to dress more formally than I am, or I have to have more pattern or more color or
Tux.
more whatever else, right?
Mhm.
Do the same thing that you're doing, but just do it better. Make sure it fits better. Make
So
sure it's
me
made out of
going
higher
down a
quality,
size.
right? Yes, we change the fit or get higher quality materials, or maybe it's got a little bit more texture and it's more visually interesting in a subtle way or something else like that. And so most of the time when I'm working with my clients, it's not like that we're going from jeans and t-shirts into 3-piece suits. That doesn't work. But we're doing better versions of what they're currently doing and then expanding beyond that. So the best
that.
place to start is just improve with what you currently have.
Nice.
That's awesome. Dude, I love the work that you're doing. So I don't think it's the weirdest job in the world. I think it's it's a very necessary role that you're playing. So you'll have to send me breakdown of, we have a landing page where we'll put the book and all the other places to get in contact with you. So yeah, guys, look up Tanner Guzy. I said it right.
Got it.
And we'll link everything on the page. But
It's been awesome, man.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
really
dude,
appreciate it.
it's been
Fun
awesome.
conversation.
So and then as always, check out Mountain Ops, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. It means the world to us. If you have a chance, please give us a 5-star review, as well as write something a little pretty in there so that we know that you know that we know that you care. Anyway, have a great day, guys. See, I can't do it.
Dude, that was good. I like that. You gotta redo it without laughing. That was good.